This is Dwayne at RealFixesRealFast.com. Today we got a 2000 Ford F-250 4.2 engine. Check engine lights on. The complaint is it bogs down, runs bad, and the check engine lights on. Now as you can see, this is a snub-nosed van. If you're like me, I don't like to work on these because access to everything is so hard. You can't hardly get to anything and work on it easy. The same thing is true about the video. It's hard for me to get the camera in there to show you. So a lot of these things I'm just going to tell you about today, but you should be able to follow it. So for any of you techs out there that are trying to learn how to do diagnostics, I'm going to explain a little bit about my thought process about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and then show you a little bit how we're going to diagnose this one. Now we did our computer work, we scanned it, and we had two codes. P0301, cylinder number 1 misfire, and a P0171, bank 1 is running lean. Now if you're like me, I like to fix them right, but I like to fix them fast. I don't want to waste a whole lot of time chasing things that I don't need to be chasing. So I'm trying to think here now, how should I zero in on this? What should I chase first? What evidence should I look for first? I actually went into generic, mode 6, looked at cylinder number 1, and all the misfire counts are on number 1. So I clearly think I've got a misfire on cylinder number 1. Now oftentimes when you get a misfire, the first thing you think about is I got a bad plug or a bad wire or a bad coil or something. And oftentimes that's the case. But if it were a spark problem, would I have a lean code? Now I'm thinking here I've got a P0171, the engine's running lean. Lean means it's not getting gas. If it was not getting spark, the injector would still be squirting, and I'd probably have a rich code rather than a lean code. So I'm going to be pursuing to start with the fact that I've got a misfire and I've got a lean code. But to verify that, I'm going to check the coil to be sure. Okay, again, because of access, I can't hardly get in there and get the camera as well, but the coil sits right on top. I used my insulated pliers, I went to the coil pack, pulled off number 1, and it was firing. So the coil is firing on the number 1 cylinder. It confirms my thought that it's probably not a spark issue. So now I'm suspecting I need to look at the injectors. Now again, a snub-nose engine, the injectors are buried down there. If you're going to have to get to them, you're going to have to basically pull the upper plenum off. Let's see how we can test this. I don't want to pull that plenum off unless I'm sure. So I verified that I do have spark. Now I haven't verified it to the spark plug, but I've got a lean code, and I've got spark at least going that far. I'm going to pursue the fuel injector. Now the fuel injectors here are on a fuel rail system, and they're buried up underneath the plenum. So even to test almost anything, you've got to take the plenum off. Well, I don't want to take that plenum off until I'm sure that that's what my problem is. So here's how we're going to test it. Now I want to know if that fuel injector is capable of firing and is being commanded to fire. So there's two things I need to check. The first thing is whether or not it's capable of firing. In other words, the mechanical side. To do that, I'm going to use my quick probe. It's a sonic device. As it touches something that is making a vibration, it'll flash a light. Now to demonstrate this, I know number 1 is my suspected problem. I'm going to go to another injector first, and let's watch that one. Okay, we've got the engine running now. You can see the injector here. Now basically all you have to do is touch the end of this to the injector, and you can see that the injector is actually firing. When I pull it away, it stops. Now all you really have to do with this is just touch the base of the injector. It will sense those pulsations, the vibration, and you can see that it's flashing. If I pull it away, it stops, touch it again, it starts flashing again. So that's telling me that that fuel injector is actually mechanically opening and closing. The pintle is opening and closing, and this is sensing it. Okay, now we're going to go to fuel injector number 1, which is the one that we're suspecting is bad. We're going to use the same test. Now we're going to go down to the injector on number 1. It's really tight quarters down here. But I'm going to go down here and touch on it. And my light is not flashing. I'm going to turn this light off so that you can see it. But my probe is down there. It's touched on the injector and the light's not flashing. So that injector is not mechanically working. The next thing I need to do is test the electrical side of that injector and see if it's actually being commanded on. Normally we use a Noid light for that. In my information system, I'm going to look at the wiring harness and it actually shows me that I don't have to actually get down to the injector to actually tap into it. I can just follow the harness back up and go to an easier access point. But I need to know which colors it is. So then I go to my wiring diagram and I look at the different colors. All of the injectors have a common red wire that gives it power. And then there's a different colored wire to each injector to command it on or give it ground. Now injector number 1 happens to have a tan wire on the ground side. So I need to tap into the power side, the red wire, and the tan wire, the ground side. Use my Noid light and see if that injector is actually being commanded on. Now on this engine, when you take the air filter box off, you follow the harness back and you come right in here. This is where all your fuel injector wires are. You notice we got a red wire, and then we have all the appropriate injector wires. I need the red wire and the tan wire. So I'm going to tap into the red wire. And I'm going to tap into the tan wire. There's different styles of Noid lights. I happen to like this one because I have a light with a little suction cup that I can put anywhere, and then I have my probe that I can go actually get into. Now ideally it'd be nice to put this right at the injector harness and plug the harness from the injector, plug this into the harness, you can test it right there. But since it's all underneath the plenum and we can't get access to it, I'm going to go back to this easy access point and test it here. Now I just want to verify that I've got 12 volts, so I'm tapped into the wire. I'm using my power probe that has a multimeter on the end of it. And I'm reading 14 volts. So I've got power. Now I want to go over to the ground side, tap into that, and I can see that I am getting a pulsed ground. Now I want to use my Noid light. With this particular style Noid light, I can actually spread these, open them up to make them fit. So I'm going to put this in here. Is the light showing up? Yeah. And you can see my light is flashing. That's telling me that the computer is commanding this on. Okay, now we've got evidence. We've got a code that there's a misfire. We've got a code that it's running lean. We've confirmed we do have spark. We've confirmed that that injector is not firing even though it's being commanded on. We improved that with the Noid light. And we used the vibration tester to make sure that that injector was not actually firing. We've gathered all of our evidence now, and there's one last thing we want to do before we actually take that plenum off. We want to actually get down in there to the injector and look at the connector. So that's what we did on this van. We pulled a few more things out of the way where we can actually get down there, and what we found was the connector on top of the injector had actually worked loose. We pushed it back on enough that we think that might be the problem. So now what do we want to do? I want to test that injector and see if I can actually make it squirt fuel. Now to do this, again, access to that injector is so limited you can't get tools and your hands and everything down in there. It's just buried. But again, what we can do is we can come up to this point where we used our Noid light and power that injector on. So what we've done is we hooked up our fuel pressure gauge to the fuel rail. We're going to charge the fuel pressure, and when we squirt that injector, you should see the pressure drop. So let's key on the fuel pump and power the fuel rail. Cycle it one more time. Okay, we can see that we're going up here. Now the pressure is actually just dropping a little bit. But if that injector actually squirts, you ought to see a big jump in pressure. Now how am I going to power that injector on? I'm simply going to use my power probe. If you remember right, with the key on, the red wire should have power at all times. And it does. We've got power on the red wire. The injector is on, the fuel rail is powered up. We're going to go to the ground side. Now the key is on. If I ground this, you can see that the fuel pressure dropped rapidly. That means we turned that injector on and it actually did squirt fuel. Looks like everything's working. Now if you do this, if you power that fuel rail, or if you power that fuel injector and you're actually squirting fuel into the cylinder, You don't want to do that for a long time and overload that cylinder with fuel. So now really we ought to be able to start this thing. It will pump that fuel out through that cylinder. And let's go back and use our vibration tester and see if that injector now, if the pintle is working. Okay, so we started the vehicle. You can hear that it's running smooth. I've got my tester on the injector, and you can see the light is firing. When I pull it away, the light goes out. Put it back on. Okay, so the key to accurate diagnostics is being thorough. Think through the problem. We had a misfire code, but it was lean. We're going to pursue that path. Along the way, you want to rule out the other things like spark, but just keep pursuing the path. If you get an engine that is like this snub-nosed van where your access is limited and you can't get down to the place, remember, if it's power and ground to an injector or some other device, all you really need to do is get in the path of that power and ground to test it. Get it out where you can get your equipment on it and so forth. So rely on your equipment, gather evidence, and it will lead you to the problem. So rather than just tell this guy up front that the injector's bad without gathering enough evidence, we were able to actually find the real problem. Now we just need to put a clip around there to hold that connector onto the injector, and this guy's ready to go. Now if you're working on a vehicle similar to this, and you go through all the steps that we just did, and you power that injector and your fuel pressure does not drop, that means that injector is being commanded on and is not going to fire fuel. At that point, sorry to say, but you're down to taking the plenium off. You've covered all the bases. The only thing left is you got to physically replace that injector. Now in our case, we kind of lucked out because it was just the connector at the injector. But if you have an injector that's bad anywhere on the engine, you can use the same procedure to try and narrow it down.